Welcome back. Well, the past few days have been an absolute whirlwind in the FCS ranks, from the regular season finales to the playoff bracket being set. And here to hash it all out and see what we can take from all of this is our FCS expert panel. It's time for Saturday Storylines, brought to you by Grand Falls Casino and Golf Resort. So we'll start in Sioux Falls, and these two teams played each other over the weekend, I guess you could say. But Jay, we'll start with you. USD, you look at the box score. All the numbers look like, hey, the Coyotes probably should have won this game. 583 yards of total offense, but they just weren't finishing drives.
That's been kind of a problem for them here of late, down the stretch of the season. Moving the football has never been a problem. They've done that pretty effectively against everyone this season, but for whatever reason, sometimes they're getting into the opponent's territory and they're just not executing quite as well. You take a look at this four-down stand, goal line stand for South Dakota State, and this was big. Although South Dakota ultimately did get a stop of their own defensively and ended up getting a touchdown anyway, but there was a missed field goal. There was another possession at the end of the first half in which it looked like they were set up for some points to possibly tie, maybe even take the lead before the half. 1st and 10 at the Jackrabbit 25-yard line, but ended up getting nothing out of that due to some penalties. And so those are just the types of things that went wrong for the team down the stretch of the season that certainly going forward, they're going to want to clean up if they want to continue playing beyond this week.
Well, you say going forward, and the Yotes are very happy to be going forward. Even though they didn't get the win on Saturday, but the Jackrabbits, Tom, with the win on Saturday, very convincing. They looked very good, and their highest seed now ever entering the playoffs at a 5th seed. I mean, how much of a turnaround has this been, this kind of last half of the year for SDSU after kind of a roller coaster up and down, middle, and start to the season?
Yeah, it was a bad start to the Missouri Valley Conference season, obviously, when they started 1-2, but got the win at Western Illinois, and that got them back to 6 wins on the season, and they thought, well, at that point, maybe if we can win one of these last 3 against North Dakota State, Illinois State, and South Dakota, we'd have a great chance to get in. But they end up winning all 3 of them, and they have been able to finish off some drives. I think here against South Dakota on Saturday, they had this drive in the 4th quarter. They were up 24-21, going a 75-yard drive. Goddard had that catch. We're going to call him Dallas Got It from now on. This was ridiculous on a 3rd and 1 to keep this drive going. And then they end it with a K. Johnson touchdown at the end of this, and they finished this drive up to go back up by 10, end up winning a close game 31-28. So in these last 3 games, they've learned how to be in close football games and win with North Dakota State, Illinois State, and this win over South Dakota. So yeah, this turnaround at the end of the year has been fabulous for the Jacks, and they've got some momentum now going into the FCS playoffs.
Yeah, well, you talk about momentum. Another team heading into the playoffs with momentum is North Dakota State. So for more on that, we're going to bring in Brian Shawn up in West Fargo. And Shawn, a 20-7 win at Illinois State, clinching the conference championship for the Bison. But the conditions were less than ideal, weren't they?
It was like all 3 seasons wrapped into one game. It was wild. I mean, the rain came down. It was 45 degrees. The temperature dropped like 10 degrees in about 45 minutes, and all of a sudden the rain turned into sleet and then into snow, and before you knew it, you had an inch of snow on the field, and both teams are dealing with that. The forecast did not call for snow until earlier that morning, so both teams had to adjust on it on the fly. There were 15 total passing yards in the first half in a scoreless game. It really could have changed the game, but North Dakota State made enough big plays momentum-wise and was able to really make the critical plays when they needed to, despite all the weather conditions, and that was the biggest reason why the Bison came out victorious and won by 13 against Illinois State. And wouldn't you know it, South Dakota State and North Dakota State are not on the same side of the bracket, which is what I told Tom last week would happen on head-to-head, and he said there's no way it's going to happen, and here we are.
All right, well, very cool for the Bison. Well, now we're going to talk to Alex Heinert in Grand Forks. And looking at the playoffs, Alex, 3 Big Sky teams made it to the postseason, but Eastern Washington, a very good program, wasn't one of them. And this has kind of caused a little controversy chatter around the league.
Yeah, it was a bit of a head scratcher that Eastern didn't get in. I think people would look at the fact they didn't have maybe that signature win. They beat a couple of 7-4 teams in the conference. They were one of 4 7-4 teams in the Big Sky behind Southern Utah and Weber State, who both were 9-2 and tied for the conference championship. But the fact that the 3 teams they lost to at the FCS level won a combined 28-5 this season, Southern, Weber, and North Dakota State, I know that the committee this year seemed to not value quality losses, and that was really the case here. Again, they have a good resume. They were national semifinalists a year ago. They're obviously a big name national power, but the fact that they don't get in and a team like New Hampshire does get in from the Colonial Athletic Association, who got 4 teams in despite having a couple of 7-4 teams in the mix, it just kind of shows the Big Sky and the Colonial are kind of picking and back and forth over who's the second best conference in the country behind the Missouri Valley, and this season the committee decided the Colonial was just a little bit better.
All right, guys, well, really quick, talking about this playoff bracket, you see this on the selection show on Sunday, and I just want to get kind of your reaction to this. We'll start with you up in West Fargo, Shawn.
I think it's a great draw. I think it's the best job the committee has ever done, spreading out the conference teams so that it's a true playoff form, and I thought they got it right. Seeds 1 through 8, I thought it was correct. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
All right, what about in Sioux Falls? Tom and Jay, what do you guys think?
I agree with the fact that the committee did a great job. I think the selection panel in discussing this bracket maybe left a little bit to be desired. I think maybe something that got lost a little bit. Again, you talk about the Valley, and I know it got 5 teams in, and we've been talking about that all season long. It's the best league in the country. It deserved to have 5 teams in, and when you look at the final Sagarin ratings, it's in the numbers,
yes.
and that just goes to show you just how ultra powerful this league is. And you know, there might be some people out there that don't feel like a 4 and a 5 from that league deserve to get in, but I don't see how there's any doubt.
Shawn was right. I am glad he was right. I had no faith that the committee would split the Missouri Valley up the way they did, but it worked out beautifully this year with representation in all 4 parts of the bracket.
And we can see, all final four
yes.
from the Valley. It's the first time, so that would be fantastic.
I think it really played out well. South Dakota State's going to host. Maybe they're the only team that has a chance to match up against another Valley team in that second round. But I think overall it worked out beautifully this year.
All right, well, postseason play, we're definitely looking forward to covering that. It starts this Saturday. Well, next on Midco Sports Tonight, not only was it a big weekend on the gridiron, but it was a huge weekend on the ice for North Dakota hockey. Alex Heinert gets us all caught up on third-ranked UND's weekend series with first-ranked Denver when we come back.